A couple things is because I know that I am a black author. Like as much as some we might try to say I'm an author, I'm amongst my author friends. I'm a part of a community, whether it's book talk or authors on Instagram or whatever it may be. I know that when someone picks up my book and they flip to the back and they see my picture, they know I'm a black man. And I know,
Okay.
especially trying to reach demographics outside of our own, that's always a chance for people. I've read X, Y, and Z forever, and now this is a new guy, and this is also a black man. So, what are they expecting from me? I'm not doing urban, I'm in fantasy, I'm in
Okay.
science fiction. So, I know that there is this great deal of understanding that it's not always assumed that we do these genres. So I know that
Okay.
I know I'm a black man in science fiction. I'm a black man in fantasy.
NL Publishing Service Academy proudly presents Listen Up, I Got a Story to Tell podcast with literary success consultant DK Walker. Sharing with you writing tips, marketing ideas, publishing information, and inspiring interviews for your author journey. So, without further ado, let's get right into it with DK Walker.
Hey, how's it going? I am DK Walker, and this is Listen Up. I Got a Story to Tell podcast. Look, y'all could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with your boy. I appreciate you sharing time with me. It's greatly appreciated. I am not alone today. I have a guest in the room. LT, what brings you to the house, fam?
Just good times, good questions, and there's the opportunity to meet new people.
That's what's up, Lee. Before we hit the record button, we did have some back and forth, me getting to know you a little bit better. Walk me through your writing process. Well, before we can get to that, how many books that you have published, how many WIPs that you have on the way? Once you answer that question, then if you don't mind, walk me through your writing process.
Yes, I have. I have. Let's see. I have my very first book called Binding, where it really shows that I was inexperienced at the time, but practice makes perfect. I have The Shattered Window, Billy Wolf, Dark Knights and Black Fur, and a free project that I want to go back and revisit called Red Moon. And my current WIP is called Hunter Slayer.
Okay. And your writing process is?
So typically, my writing process consists of I'll have a concept first, a concept or just a general idea, or even a conversation that might spark it. And I'll toy around with it. I'll plug in my headphones. I'll listen to music that kind of helps me shape the story and the world. And then once I have the bare bones of it, I start doing research on if it's fantasy, are there going to be like realistic physics in it, or is just all fantasy? That I want to like research mythical characters and creatures and see how I can spin it. If it's more grounded in realism, do I want to put a message in it? How do I want the characters to feel? And then I do character sheets. I work on the characters like names, their background, their hopes, their ambitions, things they want, things I might want to take away from them as they try to get that in the story, the obstacles I'm gonna put in front of them, and basically what it'll be from point A to point Z, and what I'm gonna do with all the letters in between with them. And then lastly, sitting down, pulling up the laptop, and typing.
Now, with all that you described, how time consuming is that? And is there a way to shorten that process?
If you just go right into it, I say you're going to spend a lot more time going back and forth between typing and research. So I think that for me, the most effective thing I do is compartmentalize every step. I spend the most time doing two things: is forming the story and how all my players, my events, if it's a series or a one-off, that
Okay.
way, that way I have a decent like I know my destination. And then, well, I don't want to skip the last, but there's research, and typically doesn't take too long for me. But just making sure, like, whatever world and genre I'm in, I know the technicals and the semantics, so I know, okay, I need this, I need the character to become this by the end, so I'm gonna plant these seeds so that by the end of the story they've already blossomed. And then the last part is managing your writing time. So the best way I go about it is in my style is I will set a time because I write the best when I have a time frame. If I'm given like a word count for the session, then I'll just look at just in front of my laptop, probably type in for 10 minutes, I'll scroll. There's no sense of urgency. But if I feel
Okay.
like if I'm in if I'm in a time frame, a time constraint, I write with urgency. I write with purpose. 'Cause I know once that hour and a half, 2 hours is up, I'm done for the day. I'm gonna do my errands, spend time with my family and friends. So I know like this time I have right now is all I have today. So that is a motivation for me to manage my time, go through my notes that I've already made, go back to my book and make sure that everything flows from the notes to the book.
You are a fan of the genre that you write in, true or false?
I mostly am, yes. I love fantasy and science fiction. I feel like they lend a lot for the author, and it gives the reader a sense of in my opinion, a greater sense of escapism and suspend disbelief. Okay, I know there's gonna be dragons or a futuristic detective, so I'm not gonna put too much pressure on like how real that is, as long as the characters feel real.
Learn how to write faster, conquer writer's block, and tell a story your readers will love. In less than 1 month, writing only 3 pages daily, you can go from book idea to manuscript using the unfair writing advantage. Most authors take 8 months on average to write just one book. But in a fraction of that time, you will learn how to craft a book your readers will love and not be hunched over your laptop days on end to do so. Just go to www.theunfairwritingadvantage.com to see what has the self-publishing industry buzzing. Now back to the podcast.
So it's crazy that you talk about the phrase, pardon me, suspending belief or suspending disbelief. I'm a huge wrestling fan, right? Pardon me. Wrestling for people that's politically correct, wrestling for my Southern people. Look, to actually be a wrestling fan, going into that, you have to believe stuff that you know is not believable. As a kid, right? As a kid, I would look and I would believe because I didn't know any better. As I got older, I'm like, somebody can get killed. The reason that I bring that point up because writing, I too have to go into my genre and write from the doggone aspect of, look, like I need to make the characters, the situation, what's going on as believable as possible, but still giving me room to maneuver because what I'm writing has such an air of fictitious about it. If you understand what I'm saying. So in doing so, it frees me up. Like I understand what I'm working with, but I know that the readers that are reading my work, they get that we're going into another realm, another world where it's not normal. And that gives you freedom. And that's another way you don't have to put that added pressure on yourself where everything has to be absolute. Like, no, they're going in reading this, knowing exactly what I'm writing. So it's a given, like it's fantasy, it's the given that it's these things. So with that being said, I had you fill out a questionnaire before the podcast. Thank you for answering that. And you had one question that no other guest on my show to date had answered. I asked you in that questionnaire, what did you about being an author? And you said writing.
Yes.
So I gave you a heads up before. I want you to expound upon that because I'm pretty sure there's other authors that feel that way. They're driven to write, but they don't like the writing process. So what did you mean by that?
I'm very hypercritical of myself. I'm very conscious of the reader and whether it's the time they're taking, the money they're spending, and the story itself. So when I say I don't like writing, it's more of just it always circles back to a very simple sentence that I'm sure even maybe you can agree with. Is this sentence the right sentence? Is this dialogue the right dialogue? It's how I simply describe, like especially even if you're writing in a room full of characters, how many ways can you say he looked from this person to talk to this person to talk to this person? Because you could only say he shifted his attention, he turned his head, he looked over. It becomes like, is this sentence, this paragraph, chapter and page, do they contain the correct chosen words? So I
Okay.
enjoy, like I'm writing, I'm creating something that even if it's a genre that or a story concept that may have existed hundreds of years before me, I'm putting my fingerprint on it, my thumbprint on it. But it always circle back to, are these the right words? Like maybe once in a while you write a line, you're like, I'm a genius. I've written this is going to be Pulitzer. This is going to be in colleges for centuries to come. And then sometimes you just look at another, like a chapter, and did we go anywhere here? And you
Mm.
did. Your notes say you did. You've outlined it. You've made your plot point bullet points. You've got it, but it's not feeling that much to you. And even when someone else might review it later and they say, "This is great," but like when you were in that, you're always criticizing the next word, the next sentence.
So my question to you is why? Why do you criticize yourself and why do you hold yourself to a high standard?
A couple things is because I know that I am a black author. Like, as much as some we might try to say I'm an author, I'm amongst my author friends, I'm part of a community, whether it's Book Talk or authors on Instagram or whatever it may be. I know that when someone picks up my book and they flip to the back and they see my picture, they know I'm a black man. And I know,
Okay.
especially trying to reach demographics outside of our own, that's always a chance for people. I've read X, Y, and Z forever, and now this is a new guy, and this is also a black man. So, what are they expecting from me? I'm not doing urban, I'm in fantasy, I'm in
Okay.
science fiction. So, I know that there is this great deal of understanding that it's not always assumed that we do these genres. So I know that
Okay.
I know I'm a black man in science fiction. I'm a black man in fantasy. So
This
I
is
know
good
that.
stuff here. Right. This is really good stuff here. We can go down I don't I'm pretty sure you have stuff to do today, but we can go down a deep rabbit hole if you let me. So if I go too far and you got stuff, just do me a favor, tap on your wrist. Hey DK, hey, it's
I
been
got
fun. I
you.
gotta go. Got you.
I,
Look,
I,
so you said something pivotal. You said that you are a black man writing in, you didn't say this, but this is what I got from it, that you're a black man writing in a white man's genre or a white person genre.
mm-hmm,
Not a problem. What I believe and what I know to supersede race, beliefs is a great story,
mm-hmm,
right? Like I think once the story precedes the author and it puts his race, it puts his sexuality, it puts his beliefs to the back burner because the story becomes phenomenal. And
mm-hmm,
I get the pressure about when they flip the back of the book over or they eventually find out that I'm black. How does that play? To the people that love the genre, it doesn't play. Like
mm-hmm,
when I tell you it doesn't play, like they brought the book to be entertained. They
mm-hmm,
bought the book to be informed. They don't give a damn if you was biracial. Don't give a damn if you was half man, half horse. If you can deliver the goods, is all that matters, right?
and that's what right there, right? That's what always comes to is like, even as a black man, I just want to make sure that when I, even when they see it and they pick up the story, wow, this from chapter one to the last one, I've enjoyed this whole route. And now I feel, as speaking from a white person's perspective, now I want to see more of this because this maybe one writer changed my perspective on it. Even if you're not trying to put the whole pressure on it, it's still back there a little bit for me.
All right, right. And I can't tell you how that works for you. I just want to help you to alleviate that pressure. And the way that I have alleviate that pressure is just I hone in on my craft. Like when
Mhm.
you're good, think about it, right? You can have, and I don't want to make this a race thing, but this is safe to say a true fact, what I'm about to say, or what I believe to be a true fact. You can take the most racist person, right? And I'm a little bit older than you, but I'm going to date myself. Spike Lee movie, Do the Right Thing. He was in a doggone pizza shop and he
Well,
was asking the dude that he worked with to name all his favorite stars, um, athletes and actors, the whole nine, right? And everybody he named was black, but the dude was racist. And then Spike was like, "How can you be racist and everybody you look up to is black?" But what happens is everybody he named dominates their field,
yeah.
and race is left at the door because it doesn't matter because you meet the criteria of why I love you. And that goes back to what I said earlier about once that story hits, right? And I get why we black authors write in genres that we're not normally affiliated with because we want to see us represented in that. And I get that 1,000%, right? And rightfully so. If you don't, I had a very good friend of mine and whatnot, Jennifer Carr on the podcast, and we had a great dialogue about race. She was white, I'm black. And when I say went there, we went there. I cannot wait for that episode to air. But long story short, we both agreed upon no author is owed their audience to include anybody else. It's up to readers if they don't like their representation or lack thereof to there's nothing stopping me from being an author, and you've picked up that. And which
Mhm.
is like my hats off to you. You did that, not a problem. But the advice I want to give you, leave that extra pressure at the door. Only thing you need to focus on is craft? How do I get better as a writer? Forget that I'm a black man writing in this genre that I don't have that many people in, but it is growing. I just need to get better, and then my talent trumps race. And that's all we want to do at the end of the day anyway. We want to, our talent needs to trump the way that we tell our stories, the way that our stories resonate with readers. It trumps all that. So they don't even, when they flip over and see that you're a black man, they don't care. They got an inkling of your work, and it was like, oh my God, this is phenomenal. And there's an old saying, iron sharpens iron, steel sharpens steel. Another author, black, white, blurple, doesn't matter. They'll see your work, and now they have to raise their bar based upon how good you are.
Yes. Yes, that is actually, that's some good advice, and that does reign very true. I do want to perfect my craft. I pick up, I think, constant audiobooks and regular writing improvement books, and I read some of my favorites, and I try to pick up a lot of fellow independent authors and see, okay, like, as much as they're writing a good story, what is something I can learn and take away from, like maybe a technique I haven't seen before. Like, there was one author, I gotta find her book somewhere, but she wrote from the perspective of a detective, and at some point this detective is in a courtroom, and the format changes to transcripts. I'm like, I did not know you could do that. And then another author wrote
Yes.
from the perspective of a resume for a character who's looking at applicants. And I used to always think for a while, like, you had to have some verbal exposition, him or the character, like, every once in a while referencing like a line that's in the resume and said, it's like, nope, here is a formatted resume where the font changes, and you're
Right.
like, that's genius.
Right. That lets you know that, oh, I'm so sorry. That lets you know that you're partaking this part of your reading is being presented you differently, right? The authors that you name, their work, they just linked in their creativity. And that's one doggone thing we'll definitely have my authors, self-publishing authors do. Lean more into your creativity and stop thinking that it only has to be one way. Stop thinking that you only have to present your story in one format. As long as the reader can get what you're trying to say, a story should be like Bruce Lee had a great quote. Be like water's undefeated. Like, you put water in your hand, it'll sit in the palm of your hand. You put water on the floor, to be on the floor. You mop water up, it'll go in the bucket. But you, like, water's always here. When it rains, it's one big cycle, right? Water's undefeated.
Right.
And so our minds, when we create, we need to be like water. Pardon me. We need to form. And in doing so, as we're forming, we're creating whatnot, we're adapting, and we're showing our readers a new way to digest our work. And I think the authors that you named, they did a great job at that, writing from that perspective. Think about it. If you like you, how great would it be to write from a dead person's perspective?
Man.
Just think about you, like, and don't even go into detail that they're dead. As you're telling the story, it unfolds that they're dead. And once you realize that, like, you're going to feel a certain type of way because if it's written right, part me, you like the character, whether he's a bad guy, good guy, or indifferent, you like him. But then you find out, and it's not even towards the end of the book, it's towards the end of the book, in the middle of the book, pardon me, and he's dead. And you're like, pardon my language, like, oh shit, I like him. I'm attached, and he's effing dead. So it's like we limit ourselves. You know what I mean? And sometimes you just have to let go. And people that's going to get your work will get your work. And it's all a learning process. It's all a learning trial and error. That's all it is, trial and error. Nobody, it's a rarity. And I don't mean to go on a rant. I'll stop and I'll get back to you. This is definitely not about me. It's definitely about you. But people read other authors, people that they like, and think that's the only way to go. And what happens is that the bar was set. Your job is to supersede the bar, but do it in a different way. There's nothing new under the sun. Your job is to make it your own.
Writing your manuscript has been hard enough, so let NL Publishing Service Academy make self-publishing your book easy as possible. From beautifully designed full and ebook covers to uniquely done typesetting and formatting, our goal is to professionally enhance your manuscripts and book covers to give your readers the best reading experience possible. Need marketing tips, tactics, and strategies? We can help you with that. How about branding and broadening the reach of your author platform? Yep, we can help you with that too. So no matter what your self-publishing needs are, NL Publishing Service Academy has you covered. Just head over to www.nlpublishingservices.com for whatever your self-publishing needs are. And now back to the podcast.
Right, yeah. That's what I've been trying to do with my current WIP, is like I want to take not so much the technique, but I want to take the genre for this particular project. And I want to figure out, like, how much can I bend it, knot it, reshape it, break, or even break it down and rebuild it, taking things that we've seen, like, in many different forms of literature, and say, hey, that's completely different now. It's not even close to what it might have the same title or the same general concept, but how it moves through the story is different.
Okay. Got you. So, with all that being said, do you think there's a point in time that an author needs to follow the letter of the law when presenting a book, not necessarily from a creative standpoint? And here's what I mean by this: success is not to be created, right? Success is to be studied and implemented, and then you put your own twist onto it. And so, my advice to any authors: have the most mind-blowing story possible. But if you want to sell your books, then your books have to look like what's selling. Your books have to, right? That's the only way you. So this is where I had to face this problem early on in my author career. I've been doing this almost 20 years. Like I was at the table, I'm like, I've been doing this for a minute. You're gonna have a great story, but if a reader cannot resonate with the actual book, meaning the cover, the title, the blurb, then they're gonna be like, eh. But they don't know that they're missing out on a great story. It's the author's
Yeah.
job to. So you have to look like, and that's come so many doggone covers look the same. If you ever think
Yeah.
about it, right? I don't know if the last time that you've been to a bookstore, but no matter what store I'm in, if they have a book section, I'll walk through it just to look. And
Yeah.
depends on what genre it is, the covers just look the same. And
Yeah.
that's because it's familiarity, right? You want to, okay, this is hot right now. As much as the creative in me is dying, I at least need to make it similar to this. I'll put my own twist onto it, but for the most part, it has to look like this, right? Because that's what the readers want. But once they get to the story, that's when you set yourself apart. Once they get to the story, the cover, the blurb, and those things in the title, that's just to get it in their hands. Your job is to sell the book. The story, that's when you get to shine.
That reigns very true. That's something I've had to do. That I've learned with each book because my first book was like a very elementary. I made it myself. Then the other ones I found a really great artist I've been working with for the last like 8 years. And as he improves his ability to create the covers I ask, I have had to, I don't want to say humble my ideas, but like understand what like the reader likes and what they're familiar with and how the market is. And I've been like learning, okay, as much as I want to put maybe a hidden thing in the cover or like some niche, you gotta look hard to understand it. I know that some people just walk into a store, they want to see a book that is familiar, maybe is a little, for lack of a more elegant term, something that's zesty, that just pops a little bit. So it's like you're walking in and maybe the cover is slightly brighter for that genre. So it's like, okay, color's a little different, still in the general scheme, but it pops more. So now I want to pick it up now. Okay,
Right.
now we have gotten the reader to pick it up. Now, like you said, it's the blurb, and that's something that I don't know if you struggle with, but I struggle with how do you condense 50,000,
Oh,
100,000 words
I got you.
into one paragraph.
I
And
got you. I
yeah,
got you. But I'm so sorry. I did not mean to cut you off. Not to be nosy, but to be nosy. This is a podcast. I am doing an interview. I'm not sure what your dating life is like. When men date, I think the mistake when men date is we give all of us during the initial process. When a woman dates, she gives you just enough to keep you coming back. Just enough. And when a woman's on her job, and I'm old school and somebody's gonna call me sexist, it's all right. You can't cancel me. I promise you can't. Look, so when she's on her job, when she's in her woman bag, when she's in her femininity bag,
mhm,
she'll give you just enough, not much. She'll laugh, she'll put her hand on your hand to let you know that she's attractive. She won't give you too much. And I think often when we have to create from the mindset of giving the readers just enough. Like I just want to tease. I guess I said all that to say I just want to tease. I
yeah,
don't want to give you two things. When I write my blurbs, I always make sure I start off by asking a question because a question provokes thoughts. A thought is emotion. So I need to like, when's the last time you read a book that made that the hair on the back of your neck stand up? Something along that. And
right,
you're thinking, when was the last time that happened? And then if you say never, that means, and my next line underneath that is, my book is going to do that for you. Right. So I'm
right,
making a promise in that. And then I go on to what my book is about. So I guess that's the lead in question on the back of the blurb. And then I go to what it's about. And I'm very vague. Like I'm very somebody that has no interest in you, but they want to be nice. I don't want to go out with you, so I'm going to give you all these vague answers, and you just can't see the writing on the wall. But you're just still there trying your damnedest. I'm not really interested, but I'm still there because there's an air of mystery about you.
mm,
So to take that 50,000 word and condense it into a paragraph, just have a great question and then don't write about it, but allude to the high points of your book.
Yeah, that's I think too something that I've learned with writing a series is that like with writing a series, you can lend that question more because like a series, in my opinion, is always is a lot of development, setup, and payoff as you go through it. So I can say this character's has this issue. What's the issue? Or this
Okay.
character moves this way, or yeah, like you said, asking questions. So you say something, and now they want to know, but
Facts.
you can't get in that paragraph. So now you got to pick up and spend that $12.99, get that answer, and now by
Right.
the end, and whether it's a standalone, you get your full answer. Or if it's a series, now you have more questions by the end because now there's more of the story to come. So I think
Factuals.
that's very important with what you said about blurbs is to say something that elicits a question. Now, now the other person, the reader, has to engage with your story.
Yes, sir. Yeah, you got it. You got it. And it's a formula that's tried and true. And I alluded to the dating thing and whatnot. And that's where I actually got that idea from. Me personally, I'm a study of people, study of life. I believe that all things, not some
Yeah.
things, not a couple of things. I think everything is story. Everything, like the way that you interact with your loved ones, your friends, your family, your co-workers, the way that you interact with yourself, everything's a story, and we're born with our author pen, right? And so we
Yeah.
get to control our narrative. Our life is our narrative, right? And so with
Right.
me having that mindset, it makes it, I hate to use the word easy, but I don't have that because I'm looking at everything as story. Everything is, and so it's crazy. My daughters get frustrated because I love them to life, but they come home, the youngest, she come home from school and she's long-winded. And I'm looking like, can you get to the point already? Please, you're killing me here. But as a good dad, you have to sit there and smile and go through her ups and downs, and she'll see that look on my face, and she'll be like, and then she'll get to the point. But I say all that to say that authors really need to understand that yes, you'll become a better writer if you read a lot. But even if you don't read, you can at least be a good writer with the fact knowing that everything that surrounds you, you included, is story. And you look at it as such. And so when it's time to sit down, right? Like early in the podcast, you alluded to having this very elaborate layout, creating worlds and characters, which is a great thing because you want it to be believable no matter how fictional it is. But even if that's not your scope of writing or the way that you write things, pull from life. Just take your time out and pull from life. Sometimes you'll have great stuff written down and it's just not flowing. Well, like you go to the doggone Starbucks every day and there's this lady sitting in the corner doing the same thing every day. If you took time out to pay attention to her, she would give you so much information to your next character. But
Yeah.
if you're not in the moment of life, you'll never know these things.
Well, yeah, life is, I try to have, whether it's my life or the life that we see happening around us, I try to see what type of story can I implement that, whether it's life that's happened in history or life that happens currently or even yesterday. Like, how can I weave this into the story that makes the characters breathe?
I like that. Ooh, yes, yes. That needs to be a quote somewhere, right? Real talk. And that's the whole, as an author, right? That's the end game. You want your characters to be alive. You want them to resonate so much with your readers that they're hooked. And by them being hooked, that pretty much guarantees your next book sale.
Yes, yes. Book sales, that's always my favorite thing.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how are we doing in that area?
It's been progressing over the years. Like my first book you could tell it was my first book. I think what I've managed to learn, because it's not, I used to rely on, when I first started, I thought if I wrote a good story, and again, this shows how novice I was back then. If I wrote a good story, it'll find its way to people. And I learned very quickly in that first year, nope, that's not how it works. And
Okay.
then with each book, I've learned, okay, maybe I'll rely on social media, but then certain sites, you have people who know you personally and who support you, but don't want to spend. And there's other sites where there's a whole community of all of us saying we like each other and we support each other, but you can't get the likes, you can't get a purchase. We all are just like high fiving each other for being authors with other authors.
Mm.
And right now, with Book Talk in particular, and that's been a big tool I've been using recently because I could pick up all the books and try and ask who I can within my reach, but Book Talk has been a good place of not just finding other authors and getting and learning techniques from them, but finding actual potential readers who actually engage with you, who like they will also tell even authors like I really like when People, they'll say, I like when authors do this, or I've learned a lot about swag and giveaways and
Mm-hmm.
creating incentives. Oh, if you buy the book and you show a receipt or whatever it is, or a photo or whatever it is, you could win all these cool things. So now people feel incentivized to engage in it because there is, yes, they're giving something for your book, but there is a high potential they'll get something back.
For
And
it as well. Right.
it creates this like a healthy back and forth between a reader and author, because now they feel, and even with that, I don't mean to ramble too much,
No. This is what we
um
do. We talk.
but something that helps, I'm hoping that'll help me with sales, is being more, I'm just pushing the story forward. Don't worry about me. All that matters is the story. But I've learned that we're not in that type of era anymore. But people want to know the creator,
Mm-hmm.
because when you can relate to the creator and you care about the creator, you care about what they create.
Facts.
And with TikTok and Book Talk, I'm developing that more, and I've had more messages than I've ever had with all the social medias and everything I've done in the past. People saying, "Can you tell me when the pre-order is?" Like,
Right. There you go.
yeah,
Right.
in the comments, saying like
So,
saying
right.
that type.
My bad. So sorry to cut you off. Look,
Of,
like you're onto something, right? Like we live in nosy times. People are
Mhm.
just ultra nosy. As an author, it would behoove you, me, and whomever else that has the audacity to call themselves authors to actually use readers' nosiness to benefit us. You got to put on the author hat, and to be an author is to be a businessman, because a writer writes, an author is in the business of selling what you, the writer, wrote. Make
Yeah,
sense? Right, not a
man.
problem.
Yeah,
So you got to take your readers along on the journey. Like it has to be about you. And you can never think I've talked about this so much today, 2 days ago, 3 days ago. If you don't own the social media platform that you're on, I promise you, the people that you think that is seeing your doggone TikToks, your IGs, your shorts, your reels, whatever, it's minuscule at best. Talk about what you're doing and talk about your offer without cease, right? Because
yes,
if you think about it, maybe, just maybe, low number, 20 people, and that's uber low. 20 people at best, 20 different people at best see your doggone content. That means no matter how many views did they pay attention, there's a difference between somebody seeing and interacting than actual viewership. If they just came across their timeline, that's a view. Like I'm scrolling, I seen it, but I didn't stop and interact. Maybe 10 or 15 people, maybe 20 people interacted, right? And it's
yeah,
20 every day. So therefore, you always got to put yourself out there every day. What I've learned to be effective in selling books is taking how we as authors is being sold to, right? Like when
yeah,
you go to a barbershop, they hit you with they trim your beard up, they trim the mustache up, and they'll do something extra, but they'll ask before they do that extra. That's called an upsell, right?
yeah,
Anytime you go get work done on your car, they find something wrong. It's an upsell, right? I don't know if you go get your doggone feet done or your hands done. I do. I need to get back real soon. So I get
yeah,
my feet done. They be like, oh, you want to get your hands done? It's an upsell. So authors, stop treating, this is my advice. It's unsolicited, but I pray somebody uses it. Stop treating your book like it's this great thing. It's a product. And consumers have been trained a particular way to consume products. Once
yeah,
you make an offer, which is your book irresistible, they'll buy, right?
yeah,
And here's the easiest hack to that: give them more. Say you have a book, an actual book, surround that with 3 short stories. And now you've increased your price point. So now the 20 people that know you want to buy, low number, now they can buy more because you have more offers to sell them instead of just one book at a time. And a lot of authors, and I get it, you get so sick and tired of, and I'm pardon me for going on a rant, but I want to help somebody here. You get so sick and doggone tired of, I've been writing this one book, I've been editing, I've been going back and forth with my cover designer, I'm just ready to be done with it. I'm sick. We've all been there, right? Because we spend so much time intimate, we want to be done. But no, like my thing is, if you've been still having to go to your 9 to 5 and work, keep going. Like the payoff is when I can tell readers, not only can you get in my actual book, I have accompanying things to go along with it. Now I'm increasing my chance to sell you more.
right.
It's just
Yeah, I
like
want to actually piggyback on something you said back there about when you said I've been writing the book, editing, revising, talking with my cover art designer. Like we as authors forget, like while we might be spending 4 months, the year, maybe a year and a half writing this and editing and the whole process, the reader doesn't know that. The
facts.
reader, right now, all they have seen is like you made a TikTok saying, "I have a book coming out." They know that much. They have not. They have not lived with you during the process. They do not know, the fact that like your computer crashed and you lost a whole page. Oh, you had to start over. They don't know that. They know, oh, I came across this one guy. He talked about his book. It's interesting. Now I want to hear more about it. And that's where we need to be aware that our readers, unless like you have a YouTube or whatever channel where you blog your whole book, they aren't with you until you say, hey, my book is coming or I'm starting my process. So if you want to keep them, that's why like I've been trying to do that more, is keep them engaged with me during the process so they know, okay, he announced a new work in progress. Oh, he completed the first chapter. He's speaking on giveaways. He's like, now I am aware of the timeline with them and I can grow my anticipation because
Facts.
because
Facts.
now like you say, you're creating something around the book. Like the book is great. Book is going to be your book and it's going to be out there. Now whether it's again with the blogs or giveaways, you're creating something with it for the consumer, because the consumer now, I've noticed, is more, like I said before, they want to know about the creator as much as the creation.
Facts. 1,000%. Yes,
Yeah,
sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. It's
I'm sorry.
like,
Go ahead.
yeah, no, it's like even like companies, like even if you like the product, if the company is horrible to whether it's overall employees or they discriminate, you feel less inclined because like now this company is this way. But if the company is good, they're good for the community, they're good with their employees, that's a greater incentive to
Support the
en-
company.
exactly and support their products, because these people care about things I care about and they're good to X, Y, and Z. So now I'm going to engage with it. And that's what we as the authors should remember, that we are also a business essentially. We are selling something. As
Yes,
much as you want
sir.
to say I'm a creator and I'm all these things, I am selling you something. So you're creating a transaction, but now we gotta make it again. Like I circle back, interactive with the consumer, the reader, or
Yes,
even with
sir.
the podcast, your listener and your viewers.
Yep. Yes, sir. Yeah, thank you for summing up my long-windedness and putting that in a nutshell. But that's exactly what is required of today's self-published author. Yeah, we wear many hats, but you got to pick and choose which hats are most beneficial to you to wear. You don't have to do everything, but the 2 to 3 things that you have to do, make sure that you do them well. My next question to you, sir, is where do you see yourself in your publishing career within the next 5 years?
In the next 5 years, I'll be starting an LLC that with my partner. I mentioned off camera, where I'll be publishing all my stuff through myself, so I will not have to like even when I publish through other sites and even our own website, everything is still under my name. As far as writing goes, I want to make sure that I have the utmost ownership in what I create. I want to constantly evolve, but even on a more technical scale, what I really want in the next 5 years is to have developed a very good relationship with my readers, a following to where every time I announce something, my readers feel like they don't have to look for like reassurance. They know the type of author I am and the story that I'm going to always work hard to provide them, regardless if I am still here or if I've excelled way up there. They know that no matter what, I'm always working on satisfying their need for a good story and never becoming complacent in future success or endeavors or sponsorships or partnerships. They know that the story is always going to be the focal point, in the forefront, the priority. So to answer the question, in 5 years I want to be a reliable storyteller.
Yeah, yeah. I love what you said. And it's crazy. This is our first time having this much interaction. We've had interaction in the past before on TikTok. That's where we met at. And you said something that I'm pretty sure you're not aware that I've been saying for quite some time. This is the formula to actually getting ahead in the self-publishing game, is to become a storyteller, because the story sells itself. Your readers just need to know the book is out because the story is just that damn good. Think
Mm-hmm.
about the next time you walk into a bookstore. There's not really a big rollout for Stephen King, right? There's
Yeah,
not really a big rollout for
like Noah Roberts, James Patterson.
all of it. It's not. It's just my new book is out. That's the rollout. Just the announcement that I have a new book is out. That's it. That
Yeah.
the reason that they sell hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of copies, because what they've done in the past. The books sell themselves. So if you don't take away nothing that LT has said today, listeners of the podcast, take this away. You have to get yourself in a position whereas your story sells itself. You and all the heavy lifting that we've been alluding to throughout the podcast, the story takes care of that. It takes care of that. Look, we in our vanity, we want to get into bookstores so much, but you only have maybe 2 to 3 weeks turnaround to show that your book is a viable commodity before they move it off the shelf and put another book in its place. Not a problem. If you have millions upon millions readers in that genre, you have an everlasting shelf life, right? And
Yeah.
so I'm saying that to say, once your storytelling gets above and beyond reproach, like they'll read a book and like, oh, I like the way he writes, and they'll go find each and every book that you've written from that point forward because your story sold them on your past work.
Yes, yes, most definitely. Yeah, that's really it. It's so easy that I've seen books on whether it's the book talk table or on like shelves in bookstores because my wife visits almost daily. Is I've seen books literally be somewhere one day and then gone. But Stephen King has his own shelf. Noah Roberts,
James Patterson.
they have whole shelves because they barely need, like you said, they barely need a market. It's hey, they have a new book coming out. And I'm even one of those people like, all right, let me just do my pre-order. All right, I'm set. And once it's out, it's at my doorstep because they created like they transformed into a storyteller that you know that regardless of the success, they're going to provide you with a good story. So it's almost like you don't even need to think about it. You just hear the name. What's the title? I'll be there.
Facts all day, every day, to say the least. Before I let you get out of here and whatnot, what message do you have for up and coming authors and in hopes of bettering their craft?
I've thought about that a lot. And I have a few things. First and foremost, be kind to yourself as a writer. Something that I've still been practicing is we are always our worst critics. Like as much as you might put your book out and someone might leave a bad review, a lot of it won't come close to how you're treating yourself from when you come up with a concept to hitting publish. Throughout that whole process, I urge all upcoming new authors, even some veterans, be kind to yourself during the process. It's all about the journey of writing, and then the journey ends. The next thing I always recommend on a more professional scale is plan. Plan plan how when you write, how often you write, get your marketing plan, get your advertising plan everything you can, like, and plan for when the plan doesn't work. Like
Mm.
if you plan for to roll out this way and a website crashes or TikTok is gone, what do you have next? I have a website. I have a newsletter. I have several social medias. I have links. So in case something, or maybe the book just can't upload because of a semantic from the website. Okay, cool. I've printed out, I've pre-printed 10 books already. So if you buy my printed, then you get something else in return. On top of that, it comes with something. So always plan to fail, plan to succeed, and plan to plan.
I like that. Plan to plan, to say the least,
And
for sure.
my last thing I will say is be the first you. Don't be the next somebody.
Mm.
I will never be Stephen King. I will never be Allison Brennan or whoever I love reading. But I'll always be the first LT Shaw. So focus on being the first you. Be better than your last book, and always challenge your next book.
My man. We're gonna put it, I promise you, I'm gonna put a pin right there in that. I don't want to touch that. That was perfectly said. Perfectly said. Yo, bro. Thank you for coming on the podcast, man. I really appreciate
Having-
you. Yo, whenever I want you to hear me clearly, whenever you want to come back, whenever you want to talk, whenever you got something coming out, whenever you just want to shoot the jive, doesn't matter. And we didn't even look, readers, we didn't even get in me and him being blurred. So we didn't even get into none of that stuff today. Yeah, but we'll definitely save that for another time. But you have an open invitation. I enjoyed this immensely. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, man.
Thank you for having me. I love the setup. It's going to motivate me for when we start getting back into the swing of things over here. So I'll definitely be tuning in more and more. So you have a subscriber from me.
My man, I appreciate that. Oh, and before I go, I am so wrong. Sometimes I can't be a terrible host. Please forgive me. Tell me about your podcast, man. Tell me what it's about.
The podcast is called Unapologetically Loud. I'm working with a music producer / media personality. He's a lot more eccentric compared to me and my very more like calm demeanor. So like we offer something. He's a single man. I'm a married man. And essentially it's been just like writing books. It's been a trial and error of how we make the show. So with this big return and it being an official business, what we are focusing on is the improvement of our listeners and just like the things we talk about. So maybe we see a lot of we see a lot of alpha male podcasts that kind of, something happened. Oh, my thing died. It's all right. I got something over here. All right. But yeah, you see a lot of podcasts talking about like some alpha male, like what's the man's place, what's the woman's place. And we want to talk about, if we're going to talk about that topic, for example, I won't be too long, is instead of demonizing someone, what can we offer to improve that situation? So like when we talk about men, I want to talk more about the self-love and self-improvement and the mental and emotional evolution of oneself as a man. How do we unpack a lot of stuff that's holding us back? How do we progress in a lot of self-love so that, because when we love ourselves, it's a greater treat to our partners in the future. How do we enjoy our careers? How do we just progress and become better? And also do a big thing that we do or that we don't do is we don't bash. We don't bash. We don't slander. If there's something bad, if everyone's already dogpiling it,
there's no need to add on. Right.
We rather offer solutions and educate, because when you belittle somebody, then they close themselves off to wanting to improve and to become educated and better. And said, hey, I don't want to spoil anything too much, but a line, something that we were gearing up is for the podcast when it comes to talk about relationships. Everyone's not for you, and you're not for everybody.
Facts, 1,000%. So go ahead.
And that's something that we, like, even for women too, but just speaking for that topic, we as men, as much as we want that bad chick who's fine and everything, she's not for you, man. And maybe you're not for her, but there's somebody else who is.
Factuals. I hate to be that guy, but let me be that guy. I would love to be a part of any of those discussions that you outlined. So yeah, if you want to invite me on and have my 2 cents, I would love to be a part of that conversation.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I got your information. I got your email. Once we're up and going, I'm gonna talk to my co-host and we'll figure out how we make this happen. And then we can go from there, because I would love to have more of this conversation with other people. We plan on in the future doing the flip side with women. So I have another woman later on talk about like femininity and just like how social media is like corroding it. Same with men. How, and just like topics like these, not just always relationship and men and women, these hyper-focused single topics where we dive deep in, dissect, and find something to help improve the listener so that when they leave with the show, they leave with something, not just, I heard some people talk for an hour and now I'm gonna go do something. So now they're like, okay, you know what? They dropped gems, books, perspectives. I want to come back.
That's good stuff.
Just like being a reliable storyteller, like this right here is a reliable podcast, because now people want to come back and listen. People want to come and watch.
My man. You gained a new fan personally and professionally. And with that being said, man, I want to thank you for being on the show. I want to thank my listeners for staying in tune. If you're watching this on YouTube, do me a favor, like, share, and subscribe. With that being said, I will catch you great people next week. Peace.
This episode of Listen Up, I Got a Story to Tell podcast has ended. But please be sure to subscribe for more literary strategies and tactics to help you create the profitable, successful author career you've always wanted. And don't forget to rate and leave a review so we can continue to bring you the best author and book-related content. See you on the next episode.